has to come back out to Trippier, then Osula again.
That's it.
Final whistle goes. Everton have won at St James's Park. The players don't know. 1-0 to Everton. David Moyes shakes hands with Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall. It's cordial enough on the touchline now, and Newcastle are waiting, because if Manchester United confirm their victory, they are 2-0 up, Man United, over Aston Villa, who have 10 men. Then it's Champions League football and 5th place for Newcastle on goal difference. So we wait for Manchester United. Newcastle, I know, but listen. Do you remember at Goodison Park when Newcastle scored those 2 late goals 5 years ago?
Yeah, but
you
we
just
went
never
down to
know.
10 men.
Yeah, well, you just never know. And the players will be getting news now, but the fans will wait, and they'll want that moment when full-time is confirmed at Old Trafford. They've seen that it's a latest score of 2-0. We will tell you when it's full-time. So stay with us here on BBC Radio Newcastle. Manchester United, they're into an 8th minute of additional time. It's just a formality, and it's going to be goal difference that does it. Chelsea have leapfrogged them, and they are 4th. Man City 3rd, but Newcastle 5th spot. Back-to-back defeats at the end of the season, but crucial win over Chelsea prior to that. They've done enough. And full time here, 1-0 to Everton. Not a great performance, not a great game for them. And they ran out of steam and out of ideas. But we just wait to confirm the result from Old Trafford. European football was guaranteed. Conference League through winning at Wembley.
Full time.
Could have been Europa League. It's full time. Manchester United have won 2-0, and Newcastle United are in the Champions League. Champions League football for the second time in 3 seasons is confirmed on goal difference, because Aston Villa with 10 men have been beaten 2-0 at Old Trafford by Manchester United. Who would have thought that Manchester United would be the ones to do Newcastle United a favour? But the defeat by Everton hasn't cost them. They've done it on goal difference, and the crowd are waiting to hear, waiting for an announcement when St James's Park can really celebrate. Newcastle United are back in the Champions League, and now they know. Defeat by Everton, but Aston Villa losing at Old Trafford confirms 5th place, and Newcastle United celebrate a return to the Champions League. They are back again at the top of European football, and a special season does have its happy ending. Those big nights, those European giants, they are all to come here at St James's Park and on the continent, straight into the league format. 8 matches now rather than 6, and a big boost to the club financially. PSR has been a problem, but qualifying for the Champions League gives them headroom and space to spend and grow financially and commercially and head towards the top and bridge the gap on those clubs that have led the way financially. It means so much off the pitch, but on the pitch is where they'll tell you it matters most. And they are going around Europe again, another European adventure. Bruno celebrates with the fans at the front of the Leazes end, waving his arms up and down in the air. Callum Wilson and Eddie Howe embrace together. They are all alone in the half to the right-hand side. Wilson, who looks like this might be his farewell, his contract is coming to an end, goes to the Gallagher end to applaud. Not the way they wanted to do it, but they've made it, John Anderson.
Yeah, it was nervy, wasn't it? It didn't pan out the way that we hoped it would. They didn't lie down. They made it difficult for us. We huffed and puffed. We weren't at our best. And as it turned out, we needed a favour, and that favour came from somebody that we didn't see it coming. Never thought it here, black and white supporters shouting for Manchester United, that's for sure.
Callum Wilson's in tears on the pitch, and the players know that Wilson, this is emotional for him, and he's applauding the Milburn stand. He's had teammates consoling him. This is clearly goodbye for Wilson.
Yeah, you would think so. You would think so. It's been a really frustrating season for him. Look, he's a top player. The problem with Callum Wilson, and it has been all his career, is just staying fit. He hasn't been able to stay fit, and it looks like that's his final game in the black and white shirt.
Jason Tindall leads Wilson back onto the pitch. I wonder if they're going to take him into the centre just to give him a moment from all four sides. Yeah, Callum Wilson on his own, followed by a camera, is applauding and waving goodbye quite clearly. 49 goals in 130 appearances. Injuries mean that it's only 49 goals, and before the last set of injuries, his goals to game ratio was even more impressive. It's just a case with him of what might have been, but for a long time he was elite as a centre forward in a poor team as well. But now Wilson leaves a club that's on the up, that's back in the Champions League, with so much gratitude from Newcastle United supporters for what he did in the good times and the bad.
Yeah, as I say, look, he's a top player. He has been a top player. It's just that he hasn't been able to stay fit. Where he ends up next, I don't know, but you wish him all the best, because when he plays, he usually scores. It's as simple as that. And he's a top player. He's a real good player when he's fit. Unfortunately, we haven't seen enough of him this season. As I say, you just wish him all the best, because his goals per game has been superb. He just hasn't played enough.
Most of the 52,000 have stayed as Wilson goes to the Gallagher end to applaud. Players and staff joined on the pitch by their families, and a chance for them to say thank you to the supporters. You listen to BBC Radio Newcastle live at St James's Park, where Newcastle United have confirmed Champions League qualification. They lost to Everton 1-0, but Aston Villa were beaten 2-0. They had 10 men Villa for the second half by Manchester United at Old Trafford. Chelsea won, they finished 4th. Villa in 6th, Nottingham Forest in 7th, Man City in 3rd, Newcastle in 5th on goal difference. Goal difference had been healthy for a while, even the heavy defeat, the big beating they took at Villa Park didn't cost them, and it's come down, John Anderson, to goal difference.
It has come down to goal difference. I didn't think it would, but thankfully we had a better goal difference than Villa. I have to say, I didn't see Villa getting beaten at Manchester United today either. So I didn't see us getting beaten here by Everton either. But look, we needed somebody to do us a favour in the end, and then in the end Manchester United came up with the goods.
Newcastle with a defeat which in the end was enough for the top 5. They tried to get an equaliser, but it didn't quite happen. Not a performance that they'll remember fondly, not a day they'll remember fondly in terms of the game overall, as the Everton fans make their way out of St James's Park. Jordan Pickford made some saves, but crucially it didn't spoil the party. They can have a party. They made the Champions League despite losing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not all about him.
No, look,
given what else has happened this weekend.
The saves that he's made, you would expect him to make. You know, and to be fair, at the other end, Nick Pope's kept us in it as well, with a couple of big saves as well. It just wasn't to be. We weren't at our best today. We didn't play with that intensity, that pace, that physicality that we've become accustomed to. But full credit to Everton. You know, they said that there was no pressure on them. They didn't have any pressure on them at all. They could go and they could relax, they could go and play. They got players behind the ball, but when they broke, they caused us problems. You know, and they got the goal, and we couldn't unlock that defence, could we? We couldn't find that killer pass. We tried to force things a little bit, tried to rush things, but unfortunately it wasn't to be on the day.
We will be speaking to Eddie Howe soon. I've just seen him on the pitch. I thought he might have gone inside and we might have missed the interview, but we haven't. He's on the pitch next to Darren Eales, the Newcastle United chief executive. They're going to go around the pitch now, the players and families. What they've tended to do is take a photo on the pitch in front of the Gallagher end at the end of the season. There'll be no dressing room victory picture today because they've lost. But Eddie Howe is now alone ahead of the group and is calling everyone forwards because they want to do a lap of honour. If you're just getting back into your car, or maybe you've got home quickly and listening to BBC Radio Newcastle, tomorrow from 6, Total Sport on the bank holiday on BBC Radio Newcastle and the BBC Sounds app, wherever you are in the world. Come and listen to us for more reaction to Newcastle's Champions League qualification, and also we'll be reflecting, as you would expect, Sunderland's Championship playoff final win yesterday. Total Sport North East on BBC Radio Newcastle and BBC Sounds every weekday from 6, with the latest on both clubs and the North East's only football phone-in. So next season, Ando, Champions League football and two-tone weird derbies.
Look, it's been an unbelievable season. If you had offered every Newcastle United fan this outcome back in August, they would have snapped your hand off. You know, to win a domestic trophy that's eluded us for so long, to finish in a Champions League spot, to bring Champions League football back to St James's Park next season, you couldn't have asked for much more. You know, it doesn't really get any better than that, to be quite honest.
Think about the season they've had and where they are now. Forget how they got there. They finished in a Champions League place and they've won a trophy. And those two things together mean that this has surely got to be the most successful, the best season. Those things on their own would have been incredible. But to do that after 3 transfer windows of not making first team signings, not improving the starting 11, having to sell players last summer and in January while rival clubs strengthened, the way they turned this season around in mid-December onwards to get to Wembley and win, to get into the Champions League places, and finally today on goal difference stay there, has been truly remarkable, and they deserve all the credit and gratitude that they are receiving. These are special times for Newcastle United, and we're witnessing history.
They do. They deserve all the credit they get. You know, they've worked so hard, this group of players. They've had their dips. Yes, they've had their dips, but it's the way they've responded to those dips. You know, they fought back. They've been absolutely superb when they've had little setbacks. They've got back on the horse, so to speak, and come out fighting. The performance in the cup final was absolutely brilliant. You know, they were outstanding against Liverpool that day at Wembley. When they've had to get big results, they've gone and got them. You know, unfortunately today, and I didn't see this defeat coming. You know, I suppose you get a little bit carried away and you think, yeah, we'll beat Everton here, there's no problems. But you get days like that, it just wasn't to be. And at the end, we needed a favour from somebody else, and we got it. Look, you know, Villa weren't able to do what they should do, go to Old Trafford and win. You know, yes, they were hampered by Martin has been sent off, but they still couldn't get the job done, thankfully, and we've ended up taking that last European spot.
There's a cheer for the chairman, Yasser Al Rumayyan, the governor of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, who steps away from the group of directors. They're on the pitch and he waves to some fans in the Milburn stand. Players are now heading down towards the Gallagher end along the east stand, and their lap of appreciation, lap of honour. Here's a lap of honour this season is almost at an end, and Darren Eales, the CEO, has just come past us back up to the director's box and is gone to get his twin sons to take them onto the pitch. And
That will be a nice moment for him and his family, players, staff and families. Lots of youngsters in black and white kit out on the pitch. The young ones are playing football and enjoying a chance to play on the pitch, with St James's Park still almost full. Tomorrow, BBC Radio Newcastle and BBC Sounds from 6, Total Sport, with lots of reaction, and you can have your say on Newcastle's season and finishing 5th and qualifying for the Champions League again. And if you go to BBC Sounds and search for Newcastle United, you'll be able to listen to interviews tonight with Eddie Howe and hopefully a player or two on the Total Sport Newcastle United podcast. Just search for Newcastle United on BBC Sounds and you'll find everything you want there, as the final end of season picture is about to be taken. Everybody from the club gathering together and standing in front of the Gallagher end to herald the end of a campaign that has brought so much. It's brought a trophy and now finishes with confirmation, thanks to goal difference after a defeat here and a defeat for Villa, that they are back in the Champions League. There'll be another European continental adventure next season, and it's big for the club in terms of finance as well as profile and as well as football. What a season it's been, and we've brought every kick live to you right here on BBC Radio Newcastle. Thanks for being with us. We'll be doing exactly the same next season. John Anderson, thank you.
Thanks, Razor. It's been very enjoyable. It's been a pleasure this season.
It's been the best one yet.
We've had some nightmare ones, but this has been a fantastic season. It's been absolutely brilliant.
In the end, its final day defeat by Everton, because it hasn't cost them, is really the least of their worries, because they've done it. They've done it on goal difference, thanks to result elsewhere, thanks to Manchester United. And who thought we'd ever say that? Newcastle United, because Man United beat Aston Villa 2-0, despite losing 1-0 to Everton here, have achieved their objective. And in a season that they ended their long waits for a trophy by winning at Wembley, they have secured qualification and a return to the Champions League.